David and Goliath, the micro versus mega influencer approach. Intriguing topic. To unpack it, would you welcome from MPLIFY, Olivia Marsh, from Warner Music, Becky Yeung, from Tripadvisor, Sanny Lee, and our very own Goliath from Bragg Media. Welcome back, Mr. Lars Brandle. Please give it up.
Good to see a full house. Fantastic. Congrats to each and every one of you. You are officially survivors. You've made it nearly to the end of another All That Matters. It's been a successful one. I hope you all got some news and business done and filled your minds and filled your bellies before you got home. Before we push on, yes, I am a Goliath on this stage, but not the Goliath on the panel. We will be talking about the intersection of bands and brands over the next little while. The big guy in the room being, of course, the established and superstar artists versus the David, who is the emerging artists. We should have some fun with this. I'd like to introduce my panelists, starting with Olivia. Maybe you could give us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Olivia. I'm a new artist signed with MPLIFY at Warner Records, and I'm making my debut in October this year, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank you.
And I'm Becky. I'm head of brand partnerships and sync for Warner Music Asia, based in Hong Kong.
Hi everyone, I'm Sanny Lee. I'm originally from Taiwan and soon to be 10-year resident in Singapore. So I'm leading Wanderlab in APAC. Who we are an in-house creative studio at Tripadvisor. So we create creative strategies and solutions for our media partner.
10 years, congrats. How will you celebrate that?
I don't know yet.
A big cake
Maybe
and a big party.
maybe a short trip somewhere else.
We'll talk about that later. Timing in this industry is everything. And I say that because Olivia's just done something very cool before we did this, we start this panel. You're involved in a campaign yesterday. Can you explain what you did?
Yeah, so we were very, very fortunate on our trip here today to actually work with the Singapore Tourism Board, and we were able to go to Mundai and shoot a music video at the Birds of Paradise and kind of do like vlogs and some content that we will be releasing on our YouTube page and also Singapore Tourism Board's YouTube page. Yeah, so we were very, very lucky to be able to do that during our time here.
So how did that come about?
It actually came about very, very naturally. So initially we were coming to Singapore for All That Matters, and also I had a showcase for debuting as an artist. So we kind of thought, oh, why not do some content showcasing Singapore's beautiful nature and culture? And our team, our amazing marketing team, kind of got in contact and was able to make it happen. So it was just so exciting being able to experience that.
Wonderful. And when do we get to see it? When does it roll out?
Oh, I'm actually not too sure about the date yet. But
it's a secret.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Becky, you spend much of your day-to-day working on these campaigns. Tell me a little bit about how the ideal campaign might roll out.
So I think actually, as Olivia was talking about, the most ideal is always when it's a natural fit. So whether you find the nugget of information either from the artist side or from the brand side that you marry up. So I kind of look at myself like a human Tinder. I'm kind of the person who shares the information with each other to then find the moments together. And the way that it works the best is the co-creation of it. So it's not fixed at the beginning in terms of what it looks like. It's actually growing as the project continues on, and you can input on both sides.
You actually do brand surveys with your artists. There's little guesswork in this. You actually reach out and you talk about this. Is that early in the career of an artist?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will not send you your brand survey yet, but we do. So at the beginning, we'll always try and do a brand survey, really understand it's not just the brands, but every category. What are your passions? What are you trying to achieve? What are the things that you would do for free? What are the things that you want to do creatively as well? And that just gets a great understanding of who the artist is as well, because sometimes you don't get the chance to meet everyone in person and really get to know their other loves beyond music. So we try and do that, and we are quite methodical in that sense, but there's always new things that pop up as you're talking to artists every day.
Ultimately, you're building artist careers.
Absolutely.
And this can be an extension to an artist's career. You can reach new audiences. That has to be the core to what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the storytelling and the authentic fit at the end of the day, because I think, especially as an artist is starting out, actually the brand is the one with more of the power and the one with the audience, and they're the ones who have built that story for a very long time. So if you can find the right values that align with each other, it helps the artist tell their story too.
And I wonder how early in that process you really lock in the goalposts, because I know in a campaign things can move. When you're working with a committee, someone can jump in and say, oh, we want the artist to do this and this and this and this. At what point do you say, this is how it will roll out, and really lock it in?
I mean, there's always excitement along the way, so it can be hard. But that's, I guess, the whole topic of the David versus the Goliath, what's better, or there's no right or wrong, but at the same time, it's so much easier to be able to navigate change with someone who is more willing to listen than a massive superstar who is already agreed and fixed in what was previously discussed, and actually changing things along the way it's not just because we don't want to. It's a very difficult process sometimes to make things change. So I think that there's always room to talk about it, and if it makes sense, absolutely. But then there are certain times when you do need to lay down, when you've discussed it, what does that look like, and what's actually possible when you do have that conversation.
Yourself and Sanny, you regularly talk about campaigns. What does Tripadvisor want from the music community?
So I think from a creative perspective, right now the consumer and travelers are harder and harder to get their attention. So when you create a partnership or a media campaign, you want to create that content is authentic and also touch different sense. So I think artists represent a great way to unlock that audio sense. And what we learned from the campaigns that we did for Macau tourism, we see a lot of social media contents nowadays. But what is authenticity? A lot of things become trending, but when you look at that social media landscape, a lot of the contents become very similar. So when we do the Macau campaign, we have the artists go to the destinations, have a full experience, plan the itinerary, get the inspirations, and create a soundtrack out of it. And this sound we also integrate into our editorial contents, our social media content, so you really feel it's unique for our destination partner. I think that's one of the things. The other thing we talk quite a bit is influencer marketing. If you think about it, it started early 2000. It has been in the market for so long, and the social media amplify it. But however, it also becomes a lot of influence, a lot of accounts where they have a certain amounts of follower, you can kind of claim to be influencer, and they want clickbait tractions. But what we want to do, kind of rethink and relook what's the definitions of influence, and we want to promote talent. I think that's some things that we want to look into the artists, because they do have something unique. And for brand and our media partner, potentially you can be part of this journey, because every artist will start from nobody and become a superstar. And if the brands be part of that journey, it's something that you cannot take away over time.
It is literally the coolest thing you can do in this industry, is to be part of the wave, the first wave of excitement for an artist. And with journalists, we also like to think that we play that role. We like to think so anyway, maybe not in reality. Let's talk a little bit about the Macau campaign, which you mentioned. You talked about the soundtrack, but when you mentioned soundtrack, you actually meant soundtrack, a recording was created from this. And was the word Macau used in the lyric?
Once.
Once. So you could rhyme Macau with wow, brown cow, quite a few things.
Yeah,
How did you know?
Well, I haven't heard the song, but
the
I've
other
got a creative mind.
The other interesting part is when we think about content, particularly on copy and editorial, you probably think about copywriter. So what makes Macau interesting is we work with a Singaporean rapper. Rapper can also be good with words. So you use a different way to think about copy and create as something unique for the partner.
So once you become involved in the world of creating new music, you're extending the catalogue of the artist. It becomes, it feeds into their ecosystem. Must there be some discretion with branding, with that recording?
Yeah, there is. And I think that it often comes down to the artist and what they want to do. Ultimately, we are just facilitating what the artist's desires are. So we're not selling a product, we're selling a person and a brand in themselves. If they're willing, then absolutely. And most of the time, that is why it's so great when you find something that they love and they're interested in, then that feels like it's easily integrated. And of course, there are lots of different ways to do it. It doesn't have to be an overtly branded song. It can be an unreleased track that is coming out. So exactly with STB, it's an unreleased track and it's Olivia's one. So it doesn't actually have to be something that's so specifically tailored to that brand to still make an impact. And therefore that sits very naturally in the ecosystem.
And then you might have support on social channels from the client and from the artist.
Yeah.
You worked with Charlie Puth on a campaign.
We did.
How did that pan out?
So that was, I think a lot of it was the right time, right place in terms of the discussion. So we'd been speaking to the Singapore Tourism Board for a long time, and then COVID hit. And so that conversation on creating something big was mute for a while because travel died, essentially. And again, I think that was a moment where we were talking about recovery campaign and finding artists that resonated that would be interested in coming over. And because I think in the past, an artist like Charlie is normally looking more at the moments when he's coming this way and he wouldn't necessarily fly out of his way to come to this one destination. But because of COVID, again, it was that cabin fever and I want to get out. So all of the stars kind of aligned in that sense. He had new music coming, so he had an album coming out, and then brought him over. And I think that it was very beautifully created, co-created with the tourism board. They were very involved in the process and understanding what it is that Charlie does on his own socials, and actually integrating that into the creative in the end.
And the stars aligned even further when he collaborated with a K-pop artist in recent years. That was fantastic. Does it help if the artist is willing and keen to make that long haul and be involved at every element of that campaign?
100%. I think that, that's a lot of what the whole team really does in terms of trying to promote Asia in a way of, you do need to come over and you need to spend that time, and not all the artists will be willing to do that from an international point of view, travel in. But the ones who do, they really see that incredible swing, and it's not just from a brand perspective, it's really, the hard work that they put in from promo and marketing and concerts and all the different touch points in music and how to resonate with the audience here.
Olivia, later I will ask you about what next in your career. You have new music coming. It's new music coming, which is exciting. So what would you look for in a campaign like the one that you're working on right now? Do you want it to feed into a new release? Do you want it to feed into something bigger in your career?
I don't think I would look at it kind of trying to fit it into a new release, but I would be willing, like you said, to write a song for a brand or something like that, as long as the brand kind of aligns with my values and my image as an artist and what I believe in. And on the creative side, I kind of want to work with that brand and have an interest in it. Also, I feel like it would be really, really exciting to kind of have a more collaborative process with the brand. So actually creating something new really excites me because I've had an interest in like art and drawing and painting and all that kind of art rather than music when I was growing up. So having those two kind of tie together, and I'm kind of thinking on like the fashion side, and I'm really interested in perfume and creating something new together and something that shows my own personal colour and personality is something that really excites me.
So perfume. People take notes?
Yeah.
Which perfume was it?
There's so many brands that I love.
So do you have a wish list? I mean, I'm just asking you now, but surely you have a wish list at home, and this is something that you both will talk about at some point.
Yeah, well, on the topic of perfume, there's a brand called Nazumato, they're a niche brand. I love them. Also, there's a Korean brand called Nonfiction, and I really love their perfume as well.
Shout out Nonfiction.
Yeah, shout out Nonfiction. On the fashion side, I really love Paloma Wool, and there's this small brand called Hara the Label. I'm not sure, I think they may be Australian, but I love their kind of clothes, and they're really comfortable, and they're all made of bamboo, so very eco-friendly. And yeah, there's so many brands. There's also, it's not a brand, it's a store called Eckersley's in Australia, and I don't think they've ever done a collab, but they're really cool. I used to hang out there when I was a kid. So little places like that kind of mean a lot to me. Yeah.
I wonder if there are any examples of collaborations, maybe from other organisations, doesn't need to be one of your own, something that didn't work. I personally know there was an Uber Eats campaign in Australia which featured a Kardashian, and I made the point to never use Uber Eats after that ad rolled out. See, we can always learn from someone else's mistakes. Has anyone picked up a major mistake in a team up which you've learned from?
I'll answer it diplomatically first. I think is that I think that the ones that don't necessarily work are the ones that are just not as memorable. So if you are, I think about it when I walk through duty free actually, and I see so many endorsement campaigns out there, and they start to look the same. You can't even tell what the product is anymore. And I think that, of course, there could be a really big campaign behind that, and that's unfair to say in terms of the billboard look there. But I think that's what I think of when it's something that's not necessarily successful, is that it kind of just turns into wallpaper, where the ones that I really remember, and it's, you know, the really successful campaigns, the really big partnerships, you can often count them because there's not lots that are really amazing. But I think that generally it's just trying to go slightly against the grain and slightly different to what you see as an everyday.
I feel like I have to answer this very politically correct. So I'm not going to give away too much detail, but I think we did some partnership initiative in certain area. What is that we jump on what is trending, and then you kind of put a lot of resource with one partner. But when that didn't work out, you lost the time, you lost the opportunity. So I did feel like always to remind ourselves, because the market is constantly changing. So always have a plan that you can adapt quickly. I think that it's important.
It wasn't us, by the way. No.
Now you can be undiplomatic and take those hats off.
Later session.
No one will share it, honestly. What does the win-win campaign look like? We all want to know. We can look at success by various metrics, but you're working on a campaign, rolls out, it gets eyeballs. Is it just about the sale of the product, or is there something more?
I think co-creation. I think a lot of panels we discuss about co-creating something unique. I think that is something I truly look at, because that creates something authenticity. And the other thing, I feel that beyond the business objective, what I found is motivate the team. When you co-create something with artists or other partner, you have the same shared value and message, then beyond the commercial impact and financial outcome, I did feel that motivate people. And people are motivated, they create amazing things.
What point in the career of an artist would you start having these conversations? I mean, you've had this conversation quite early. Is it across any point in the career?
Absolutely. I think it's at any point in the career. And I mean, I look at partnerships a lot like dating. Like you were talking about, you know, I want my core values to align. You want to be compatible. Ultimately, you're looking at what fits with what you're looking for. Are you trying to play hard to get? Are you know, what's your objectives out of there? And I think that the power dynamic is really important. If a brand wants to celebrate the up and coming and be the one who is the start of that journey, then there's no wrong time to start. It could be before they even hit the ground running. It could be before they debut. So it totally depends, but it can be absolutely from the very starting point.
It's a total balancing act, isn't it? But all of this happens behind the screen. We just see the fully formed product at the end, which appears to have been created naturally. I have touched on this, but are there any recipes for the success? Obviously, we mentioned the artist has to be on board. What are the key recipe?
I think, first of all, what's really incredible about music and artists is that the data behind it is actually so significant. So you can really get down to who's listening, where they're listening, how often they're listening. You can actually tell the fan base already. And often I think that there's sometimes when a brand doesn't necessarily want to dive in so quickly, they're being a bit cautious. Listen to that data and see where is it that is it aligning with your audience? And that risk is, and again, the other feedback that I get is that it's a risk going with someone that's not known, that I don't know. But if your audience is someone different, and if you're just going to try with a small investment and a tiny one, why is that a bigger risk than putting all your resources into a big endorsement and a big partnership that's going to take you 6 months to a year to get off the ground, and when you could just try a lot and potentially see them flourish and soar?
What is the downside of working with Goliath?
The power dynamic, that you don't necessarily have the power to really input into the co-creation, the co-design process, where it's possible, but it's a lot less negotiation opportunity.
And presumably cost.
And cost.
We can talk about that. There's a cost side of these things as well. Olivia, I did mention I wanted to talk, we'll learn a little more about the releases that are to come. Now's a good time for you to tell us.
Yeah, so we're very, very excited, and I personally am slightly nervous that we're going to be releasing my first single in October. And then after that, we've got some really exciting collaborations coming up with A Boogie, who's going to be on one of my tracks, and then Jay Stevens, and I'm really excited about that collaboration as well because I love that song so much, and she just kills it on her verse. And then we've got kind of another kind of slow lilting song coming out after that, and have a Christmas song coming up as well. So we've got a few releases, and then we're dropping the album next year. So I'm very, very excited for you all to hear what's coming out.
You have the cut Sway on the Oh My Girl record,
yeah.
which is, let's face it, that's amazing.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, I've actually been songwriting for other K-pop artists for a while now. Well, when I say a while, I mean 2 years actually. So I came out of uni and moved to Korea, and I've been songwriting ever since, which actually happened really naturally because I just came to kind of be with family, and music kind of found its way back to me, and I started writing as a freelancer and kind of connecting and meeting other producers and meeting other producers through that. And yeah, I ended up having a session at a publishing company with some producers from overseas, and was lucky enough to get a cut with Oh My Girl.
Amazing. Yeah, are you able to give us some context about Oh My Girl? This band is really quite important. They're a veteran 10-year band. Yes, I had a friend from Australia message me earlier and just went wild when he heard that you were on this panel. So that's fantastic. We are actually running out of time. I will ask what takeaways you would like the audience to bring from this panel and this balancing act that is working between bands and brands.
Do you want to go first?
I guess from an artist perspective, like I'm still starting out, I'm still learning and growing as a person, and I find collabs, like I've been collaborating with other musicians for the past couple of years, and I love the collaborative process because you kind of create something that you never would be able to create by yourself. So being able to collaborate with, say, something like fashion or any other kind of brand opportunities, I think we'd just make something so exciting. And yeah, I just wanted to say support us new artists as well, please, because we do love that kind of stuff as well. Yeah.
I think for mine is that there is no right or wrong. I think both can work in terms of working with mega and micro, but I think that it's so important to get behind the beginning of it all and just come along with the journey and actually create and learn about what it is that could make it better as well. So don't come with a fully fixed idea, or don't come with something that you don't necessarily know what you're trying to achieve. I think that's the end of the day, is on both sides there's something to give and there's something to earn from the relationship. That's why you're collaborating in the first place. So don't be afraid to, I think, know what you're giving from a brand perspective. There's obviously audience, there's obviously storytelling behind it, and that's absolutely more valuable sometimes than the monetary aspect of it. So there are a lot of collaborations that happen naturally. And then on the artist side, also don't forget that they are also building, if we're talking about the bigger brands and what they're achieving with the collaborations, ultimately there is commercial gain from it. So I think also remember to compensate, or at least bring the other valuable aspects to the artist's career and their growth.
And some collaborations are worth more than the sum of the parts. And you were saying the other day the Jason Derulo NBA campaign.
Yes.
That was a big surprise for everyone involved.
The FIBA campaign that I did for the Basketball World Cup with Jason Derulo was, it was just a great example of, it was a win-win for everyone. He's a massive basketball fan. He felt like actually he was quite humbled at that point because he was a massive Kobe Bryant fan. Kobe was one of the ambassadors there. And I think for a moment the red carpet was huge screams for Kobe, and he was actually not as big of an artist compared to Kobe being there. And he actually asked for the poster of them to be sent back to his house in LA to be framed.
It wasn't just a poster, it was the size of that wall, wasn't it?
Yes, but we didn't send that one. Well, no, we did. We cut it apart and sent it over.
Presumably he has a very big house from all the royalties he's earned. Sanny, you get the last word.
So I think when it comes to collaborations, come with open mind. So have a dialogue with the artists, let artists know the brand and the brand to understand the artist. Then you can really create something meaningful. And when I had the discussions with Becky, we always ask, what is the artist's passion points? Because especially in today, AI, in every conference, every panel you talk about AI. But I do believe that we need to come down to who we are as a human being. And I love, and the brand also love, artists to have their own point of view. And that brings the unique perspective. And when we integrate artists into our travel-related campaign, we leverage their artistic mind to bring out the different side of destination.
My panelists, thank you so much.